So, Heather, last segment, we're talking about the Michael Cohen testimony. Let's listen to just in the opening statement in and of itself, we heard some stuff that is, we sort of knew these stories, but to hear Michael Cohen just sort of lay them out, this is one where he just sums us up. But there was 2 clips about this. This I thought was hilarious.
A copy of an article with Mr. Trump's handwriting on it that reported on the auction of a portrait of himself that he arranged for the bidder ahead of time and then reimbursed the bidder from the account of his nonprofit charitable foundation, with the picture now hanging in one of his country clubs. And copies of letters I wrote at Mr. Trump's direction that threatened his high school, colleges, and the college board not to release his grades or SAT scores.
Okay, so that is Michael Cohen talking about the receipts. He's got the documents. He's not just alleging this. He's bringing in documents that prove that Donald Trump paid a guy to go to an auction and bid up the price of a portrait of him so that it made it look like people really wanted his picture. And then he sent letters to his high school, for God's sakes, and the SATs, threatening them with God knows what if they were to in some way release the story. Like, what a small little man. That's nuts.
It's completely nuts. I mean, the portrait thing is truly unbelievable. I mean, this is, there was nothing he wouldn't stoop to doing to hype himself. And it continues to this day. But the SAT thing, I've got to tell you, nothing has made me more want to see those college and high school records. Because remember, look, this guy portrays himself as a business genius. We know that's not true. And we know that, but, a lot of people believed it. They didn't understand that he had basically, inherited a huge fortune and then squandered it over and over again and just sort of managed to keep afloat by dancing as fast as he could and becoming a celebrity, basically, and being able to brand his name, that he's not a business genius at all. He's kind of a self-promoting genius in a certain way, but that's about it. And so, I do think there's some, that there's interest in it, but the fact that he did this after dogging Barack Obama over his college transcripts, he even offered him $1 million to his favorite charity if he'd release them over and over again, implying that he had a low IQ, which is what he says about every African American that
right.
He has a conflict with. They're stupid, right? So he said this about Barack Obama, for crying out loud, who was the head of the law review, but he said this, and now you realize once again we all have this. Many of us have been sort of hyping this idea that Trump projects all of his own insecurities and failures onto other people. But this is a truly perfect example of that.
Right.
This is a guy who, obviously has something to hide. I mean, if he got straight A's in college, he would have no objection to that being released, obviously. So the fact that he didn't want anybody to release those says that, clearly, I mean, it may not be bad. Maybe he was just a B student or something. But for him, because he's touted himself as his genius, it's a real problem. And so he has his fixer write threatening letters to these colleges. And Fordham actually admitted that they had it and that they had been, threatened with legal action if they released the thing. They came out with a statement. So I don't know about Penn, which is where he went for the second 2 years of his college career, or his high school, the military academy that he went to. But, maybe they've given statements too. But I mean, imagine that, somebody going to that length to hide something, and this is true of Trump. This is one small example that illustrates all the rest, right?
Right.
He is hiding things over and over and over again.
And I don't know, obviously, look, that's not illegal, and I don't think his audience is going to care about it. But here is something that I do think may make a slight difference if Democrats were to play this up. And, we're a couple of years out. But if this ends up in an election ad, I wouldn't be surprised. Here's Michael Cohen talking about a guy who about his deferment from Vietnam, and Cohen wanting to get the information out there about his medical problems.
Mr. Trump claimed it was because of a bone spur, but when I asked for medical records, he gave me none and said that there was no surgery. He told me not to answer the specific questions by reporters, but rather offer simply the fact that he received a medical deferment. He finished the conversation with the following comment: "You think I'm stupid? I'm not going to Vietnam."
I think that comment, "You think I'm stupid, I'm not going to Vietnam," is one that actually might have some traction. And of course, I'm talking about with a very, very narrow slice of even his electorate. But I think there are some who might be really turned off by that, even more so than the John McCain thing, because it's one thing to say that John McCain, this elite, son of an admiral, was not all he was cracked up to be. It's another to say, if you're a Vietnam vet, you're stupid. You went. I didn't. And that's basically the message that he's sending there. And it's just a question of whether that is something that the Democrats end up exploiting. But listen, Heather, we've got to take a break. What I want to do when we return is look a little bit more at two elements of what Cohen talked about, and that is obviously Donald Trump's racism, which led to an exchange between one of the new members of Congress, the Democratic women, and an old white Republican guy. And then let's talk about collusion. We got to take a quick break. I'm Sam Seder. This is Ring of Fire Radio. We'll be right back with more Ring of Fire.